All offseason, we had this game down, us experts. We knew exactly who was going to win this game, right? Well, that has completely gone to the other end of the spectrum. How about this? We got USC at the big house. Ever since the Trojans have joined the Big Ten, we have been awaiting these kind of matchups, and this one in particular. Welcome into the Voice of College Football, Trojan Conquest Live. It's only possible because of the two below right here. Tim Prankley, Matt Zemek, they do a remarkable job. They fuel the USC channel. We appreciate them. They're here twice a week. It's postgame now with the season in play. So 3 times a week. And of course, now we got our Michigan guest here, TJ Konarski from the Michigan channel, who hosts along with John D'Adamo the Tuesday Michigan show. Join TJ for the live call-in show on Thursday nights. Guys, how we doing tonight?
Doing great, man. Ready for this epic battle between two blue bloods in college football. I think when and Tim spoke on this on our show, when they announced or when USC was added to the Big Ten, this was one of the key matchups everybody was looking forward to. We are finally going to see it. It's going to be in one of the most historic stadiums, the Big House. It should be a great game this Saturday.
Now, I alluded to this. Go ahead, Matt.
I would just say how appropriate it is that we have an episode of Blue Bloods on CBS.
There we go. No coincidence.
And Tim gets his first look at the big house.
Yeah, I've been to East Lansing, but I've never been to Ann Arbor. So I'm.
How dare you?
As soon as I heard about this game, I was to get there no matter what. I just knew. I mean, talk about your ultimate helmet games. I've been to 2 Rose Bowls, actually 3 Rose Bowls with Michigan, but I never. It's kind of weird. We just never play each other, home and home. So for this to happen, something very special. So I knew I had to be there.
Yeah. 3 Rose Bowls. Are we going all the way back to the late 1980s?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. The Bo Schembechler's final game.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Good stuff. And as I alluded to off the top, rarely does Vegas move its opinion on anyone. It takes a lot for Vegas to move its opinion. And the entire offseason has been Michigan's going to maintain elite status. USC's kind of a wild card. They're on the fringe of the top 25. Sure, there's talent. There's Lincoln Riley. There's all these components we are not sure about. But Michigan is this stalwart, this rock solid team that's coming into the season to contend again in the Big Ten. And sure, we're going to see mass movements down deep into the season, but we're only into week 3. And the position on pundits, Vegas, everyone has completely flip-flopped on these two teams, from Michigan being probably a 7 to 10 point favorite in the offseason to USC pushing over a touchdown favorite on Saturday, Matt.
That's pretty shocking. Not that USC's favored, but pushing a touchdown. Because I saw like a week ago, FanDuel had a early line of 2.5. So like that's just insane line movement just within the course of a week that's being bet all the way up. And I think that, I didn't mention this on the Michigan show. I guess I'm saving this for the USC show. No, that's not really true, but just the thought comes to mind now. I should have thought about it on the Michigan show with John and TJ, but Lincoln Riley, when he was at Oklahoma, remember the game against Ohio State? I believe that was a week 3 game in the middle of September. So, you don't empty the kitchen sink in week 1 or week 2. Keep a few things under wraps. Lincoln Riley ran rings around Ohio State middle second half of that game in Columbus, the one with Baker Mayfield planting his flag on the turf in Ohio Stadium in the Horseshoe. And the thought does occur to me, Lincoln Riley's sitting on a lot of goodies. And he's had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. So like that certainly is a reason for USC fans to feel optimistic that there's going to be things that Wink Martindale and the Michigan defensive staff have not seen on film. You got to think that Lincoln Riley is going to be setting up some plays, not just keeping them under wraps for the game, but also he's going to do things in the first quarter that are going to set things up for late second, early third quarter. So it's going to be fun to see what Lincoln Riley does in terms of manipulating the Michigan defense in this game.
I think it would be fun for me to ask TJ, how is USC going to win this game, and ask Tim, how is Michigan going to win this game?
Well, the way USC can win this game is if they
show up.
The way they can win is stop the run. If they are able to suppress Michigan's ability to run the ball, and they get Michigan to have some 3 and outs or short drives, one, that's going to completely disrupt the offense. And then secondly, our defense is going to be on the field. They're going to be overexhausted, overworked. We saw this against Texas. Texas was able to achieve this by the second quarter because Michigan, one, couldn't get off on third down. And then we were having enough offensive issues where we could not sustain drives. So do not allow Michigan to sustain drives. Stop the run. And then capitalize on your offensive opportunities. And we talked about this previously on the show I was on, but if they can score touchdowns and not resort to field goals, then it's going to be a long day for Michigan.
So before we let Tim go on this one other side note to that is obviously the wild card status of an Alex Orji in regards to what is he going to bring to the offense. We know he's not a thrower, so we're not expecting, Drew Bledsoe-esque type style quarterbacking out of Alex Orji. We know what his strengths are, but at the same time, there could be an advantage there on the Michigan side that there's nothing on tape about Alex Orji other than him taking a direct snap and running with it. A little bit more than that. They've thrown him a few times, some intermediate or not even intermediate, some stuff in the flat. But TJ, you are about as well equipped to answer this question as anybody I know. What would you do with Alex Orji? How much you would, let's say it's a competitive game. You can't just trample them up front and just run the ball at will. So you got to mix in the pass. You got to be balanced. Like, what can we expect out of Alex Orji in terms of being a downfield throwing threat?
Well, Alex Orji does have the capability to do short and intermediate passes. We have actually seen this. I mean, we saw this in the spring game. He was at a 70% clip against our defense. He looked good enough. He looked capable at throwing these passes. So what they need to do with Alex Orji is, one, they need to definitely scheme the playbook to his strengths. And by doing that, I believe some RPOs, some play action, rolling out to the right. I'm not too sure how he is rolling out to the left because the sample size is so small. I don't know his capabilities there. I actually am not overly confident with that. But I do believe if they can establish that along with an effective run game, that should keep USC honest. Now, you will need to do the occasional deep shot. And we do have some players that you can do it with. We have Fred Moore. We have Samaj Morgan. These are players, and another player that they started on wrap against Arkansas State, which is Amarion Walker, who is he might be a 4-3 guy. Last year, he was tested to have the highest 3-cone drill, and he would have had the #1 score in the NFL Combine. That's how athletically gifted he is. He's a 6'4" wide receiver. We got him out of Ole Miss. He transferred from Ole Miss, so he's an extremely gifted athlete. His problem is he's still learning the position. He's a little raw, but we may see him out there to try and at least maybe be a diversion, keeping USC a little honest, spreading the field a little bit. But the way that they need to capitalize on Alex Orji is these quick pass options that should achieve a high completion percentage, or at least a higher percentage of a successful play.
Tim, if you were scheming for Michigan against USC, what would you do?
Well, on defense, USC has shown that they've had some trouble on the line and pass protection. That's why I think it's important for USC to be able to run the ball and play balance there. USC, so if they could try to limit, like TJ was saying, try to limit our run game, try to make us throw, and then allow guys to come at USC and to attack SC. Have like Grant Graham and Stewart come at USC and get a pass rush, that's really where it's going to happen, because USC's had some issues with ball security and we've lucked out. I mean, the ball is shaped funny for a reason, and sometimes it bounces the right way, and it's bounced the right way for USC. If USC doesn't play a clean game and they're able to frustrate us in the run game and get a pass rush, that's Michigan's best. They're not going to win on offense, but they sure could make it difficult on defense. So that's really where this game will be decided for Michigan.
Well, I'll add to that. Like, the thing for Michigan right now is getting pressure on the quarterback. We got 1 sack on Arkansas State, and they were down an offensive lineman. We got 0 sacks against Texas. Now, granted, it's arguably the best offensive line in the nation, but even so, Michigan's defensive line should be able, considering they have 2 potential first-round picks on that defensive line, they should be able to get pressure. We've also seen this year that has been a little concerning, a lack of push up the middle with Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham. And we're also wondering, where is the creativity on defense? Because we are not seeing creativity with blitz packages or disguises on the back end with coverage disguises like we're used to seeing with Jesse Minter and Mike McDonald. So there are concerns on our end. Now, hopefully they get these things corrected, and by week 4, by this game this Saturday, that these things will be more polished. We'll see. But these are concerns so far entering the season.
That's TJ. I was going to ask you this. It made me think about when I was actually on the show with you earlier. I have my thoughts on it, but who do you think this team misses more, Jesse Minter or Jim Harbaugh?
Probably Jim Harbaugh. I mean, granted, Jesse Minter's was an upgrade over Mike McDonald, which is saying a lot. We're seeing that in the NFL right now. I mean, the Chargers defense looks great. Seattle, these dudes are translating to the NFL. These are NFL caliber coordinators and coaches. But Harbaugh's, as quirky as he is, as unique as he is just an excellent football coach, and he keeps a program strong. And you can't, there's a reason why he's already 2-0 with the Chargers. He's just an excellent football coach.
I'm just kidding. Sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
J.K. Dobbins, maybe, but yeah, no, I understand. But he's just a great coach. And here's the thing too, if Jim Harbaugh was the head coach, I would assure you we would have had probably a better replacement at coordinator than Wink Martindale. But we'll see. It's still to be determined. It's early in the year. We'll see what Wink can do.
This is another angle that fascinates me, and Tim and Matt could probably correct me on making this comparison, but USC seems like it's a pretty similar offense in regards to skill level, the quarterback, the style of quarterback play to Texas. They seem pretty comparable in a lot of ways. Tim highlighted that the USC offensive line is not as good as Texas's. You could say that the USC wide receiver room is probably a little bit better than Texas. We could make all sorts of little adjustments, but they seem to be stylistically, athletically very similar. Their quarterbacks are not runners, they're throwers, they're precision passers. Again, the game that Miller Moss put out there against LSU is one of the most impressive quarterback displays, considering his lack of experience, in addition, that I've seen in a long time. And so is Michigan smart enough, Sharon Moore and his coaching staff, I wouldn't have been hesitant about this in previous years with Jim Harbaugh at the helm, to self-scout and to say, we're going to see something similar. Of course, there are different nuances, but we're looking at 2 elite play callers and offensive technicians in Sark and Lincoln Riley, that can we clean up how we got shredded when Texas came to town?
Well, that's one of the big questions for us as Michigan fans, because we are not seeing self-scouting or self-reflection right now. We see it almost looks like they're trying to force things. They're not. We have some issues on Michigan right now that the fan base thinks the fan base feels confident in the answer, but the coaching staff is showing us through results that they don't agree with what the fan base is seeing. I'll give you an example. We believe majority of the fan base would say Khalil Mullins should be RB1. Well, the coaching staff appears to want to make Donovan Edwards RB1, but it's quite clear that Khalil Mullins is the better back. At center, Greg Crippen looks like the better player, but like Sharon Moore just made a comment today that they graded Dominic Giudice higher, which is crazy because I've watched the game twice, and Crippen, when he's out there, the offense actually performs better. There's more push, more gaps. It actually looks a lot better with Crippen out there. So I don't know what he's seeing. And then we have an issue at right tackle. So there are these issues that we're not seeing the coaching staff identify. Like, it appears they're not recognizing. It just seems an inexperienced coach like Sharon Moore, what we're finding is he doesn't have a feel for the program. That is a concern right now. Now it's early, the sample size is small, but that's the early read. And a lot of fans in the fan base right now are getting a little concerned about it. So it to say that, are we self-scouting from Texas to USC? I hope, but I don't know yet. The sample size is so small on what we're getting, but the coaching staff, and I've made this announcement to our community, has lost my trust. I do not trust our coaching staff. They've not shown they have not shown us through from spring portal, from spring ball all the way to the start of the year, that they have a pulse of the program and that they are identifying strengths and weaknesses or putting players in the best position to succeed. Because that's another issue. Why is Donovan Edwards not being utilized in the slot? Why is Colson Loveland not being put in the X position? Because he'd be the optimal. He can play X. He can do that. You can use Marlon Klein as your inline tight end or Hogan Hansen. There are ways to utilize these players to be better, or putting your best players on the field. We're not seeing it, and we don't know why. Like, many in the fan base are actually in agreement with what we think is ideal, and Sharon Moore is doing the opposite on some of these.
I think in terms of drilling deep on a comparison between the USC offense and Texas offense, I think one of the things is that Texas's offensive line set a very high standard. I don't think USC is going to match that standard, but I will say if USC can come even modestly close, that's probably going to be good enough. And on our Michigan show with TJ and John, Tim and I both were in agreement that, you know what, USC doesn't have to dominate Michigan's defensive line up front. Just don't get dominated. Pretty much play it even, prevent the negative plays, make sure Miller Moss has enough time to throw. Because like if you use the LSU game as a parallel, USC didn't dominate in the run game. USC didn't really run block all that well against LSU. But for the most part, Miller Moss was clean. Now, Miller Moss was throwing the ball fairly quickly, but nevertheless, like in 2-minute drills, late half drives, he generally had enough time to throw. And so if we get that kind of situation where, this is not one-way traffic, the pocket isn't always caving in on Miller Moss, and he generally has enough time and space to make the kind of throws that he made against LSU, and he made a lot of great throws. If he gets a reasonable amount of time and he's not overwhelmed the way Caleb Williams has been with the Bears behind that Swiss cheese offensive line, if Miller Moss has a fundamental comfort level, that should be good enough for USC. Won't guarantee it, but like that would be certainly a step forward for USC if Miller Moss has pretty much the same amount of time he had against LSU, maybe a little bit more since this is a true road game. But fundamentally, like if that bar gets set pretty much where it was set against LSU, should be good enough against Michigan.
Yeah, I think that's a key. Like, does Michigan get pressure on Miller Moss? Do they make him uncomfortable? Are they able to push up the middle and affect the pocket? Now, we have had 1 sack in 2 weeks. That's where we are with this defensive line. This defensive line that is featuring 2 potential first-round picks and then 2 returners who are arguably starters last year on our defense in Josiah Stewart and Derek Moore. And then we have an up-and-comer in TJ Guy that everyone's very high on. So can they get it together? Can Wink Martindale dial up effective blitzes and coverages because you can get coverage sacks too, right? So can they dial it up correctly to make Miller Moss uncomfortable? That is going to be an extremely important key to this game.
Appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football. It's typically Tuesdays and Thursdays here on the USC channel with Tim and Matt. I join along on Tuesday for our Trojan Conquest live show that you're taking in right now, of course, at 10 Eastern, 7 where it counts on the West Coast. And then again with Tim and Matt typically on Thursday night. I think they're making an adjustment this week. Is that correct?
Wednesday, tomorrow, Wednesday, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern.
Call in
Tim-
show, folks.
Tim's flying to Ann Arbor on Friday, so that's why this week we're pulling it off our normal Friday slot and making it Wednesday.
Very good. Very good. Jackson, we appreciate your contribution. Of course, you can catch the Jacksonian on the Voice of College Football, the Alabama channel. It's every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, folks. And tell your friends, your family, your frenemies to find that one. I guess those are rival fans who you're friendly with. The cashiers at Publix, Whole Foods, about the magic that Mark, Matt, Tim, and TJ and join
John.
Oh, John. We got John there. Bring every week. Okay. Very good. Should put the contacts in. Very good. Thank you, Jackson. Appreciate you.
And thank you to Blackie Chan Gaming, Fight On, and everyone over at the Light the Torch podcast. I saw Brandon here earlier. So you guys make sure you're checking them out as well. Great USC content over there. Make sure you are checking them out.
All right, folks. Next up, I know you guys did a round of this earlier tonight, but don't know if we've had anything in the chat in regards to any kind of.
Well, we can re-hit the keys of the game if you want. TJ had some great comments. Maybe we can rehash that for our show. TJ, so what for Michigan? What are the keys to a Michigan win?
Yeah, so the keys for Michigan to achieve a victory on Saturday is they must sustain drives offensively. They cannot have 3 and outs. They have to sustain drives for 2 reasons. One, allowing our defense to get rest and not get exhausted by going against the Lincoln Riley offense and the Miller Moss passing attack. And then the other variable there is allowing Miller Moss to not be on the field. If we do not allow Miller Moss to be on the field, Miller Moss cannot score. That is a key. We have to do that. The other key to the game, which we did touch on, was Michigan must get pressure. If Michigan does not get pressure on Miller Moss, it is going to be a long day. It is going to be a day similar to Texas, is what my concern is if we do not dial up pressure. Because the reason why that's going to be is we're going to, one, get tired, which when you're going in a track meet with an offense like this, that's a very bad recipe for success. If you are exhausted going against a high octane offense, especially with an elite passer that we're looking at in Miller Moss, that's deadly. So we cannot allow that to happen. We must get pressure. We must disrupt their offense, get them out of rhythm, disrupt the flow. And then my last key is we have to, if they do sustain drives, we have to hold them field goals. We cannot allow 7 because I do think Michigan is going to have some challenge scoring. Now, will they score? Yes. How much will they score? That's the question. What is this offense's potential with Alex Orji? It's to be seen. So we don't fully know yet. But what I do know is if we can at least hold them to 3, and that allows Michigan to if they can get 7 on their drives, that'll make Michigan a far more competitive opponent for USC this Saturday.
TJ, do we know the health status of Colston Loveland? And if he can't go, it looked like the tight ends filled in pretty well last week. But what does the depth chart look like?
Yep. So Colston Loveland is the injury is less serious than originally expected. I would say there's about a 60 to 70% chance he plays. It's still unsure because practice, there hasn't been anything that really has leaked from practice yet, but I would say we're at 60 to 70%. If Colston Loveland is unable to play, expect Hogan Hansen to fill the inline blocker role, and then expect Marlon Klein to do more the Y tight end position where he's going to be split out into the slot or potentially even in the X role. Marlon Klein is a tight end that we have been talking about a lot this offseason as a name to know because he runs a 10-8 100 meter at 6'4", 250. He has been said by Kirk Campbell, who has coached Pat Freiermuth. He's coached obviously Colston Loveland and a few other prominent name tight ends. He has said that Marlon Klein is the most athletic tight end he has ever coached. He's more athletic than Colston Loveland. Now, it does not make him better than Colston Loveland. Obviously, it's more than just athletic ability, but he is an up-and-coming name that we are hoping that becomes a name this season.
We've got our buddy Adam checking in here, and Adam always brings some insight to the table. So he's, of course, showing up on the USC shows here at the Voice of College Football on a regular basis. Adam makes my life a whole lot easier on my daily show, showing up in the mornings over on the main channel, offering some great insight. I always get challenged by Adam's proposals, always great conversations. And so Adam says here, imagine if football wasn't scored on points, but like tennis and volleyball on sets. Thus, imagine if football had 5 quarters of 12 minutes and the first to win 3 would be the victor. Think about it. So you would have maybe, Matt remembers this, you would have like a circa 1991 US Open Jimmy Connors in the twilight of his career, who was vying for one last hurrah and made it all the way to the semifinals in a 2-week run that had guys like me staying up till 1:30 in the morning watching US Open tennis because I just love Jimmy Connors. And but hey, if he got down 2-love, 3-love in a set, nope, can't exert the energy. We're letting that one go 6-love. We'll start over the next one. Yeah, blowout football games could be managed much differently that way.
It would be great for like the high octane but inconsistent offense, right? Like you could sputter in a couple of game segments, but then if you really put it on them in like 3 big segments of gameplay, you'd be able to win. So like we can pick our team, but like that's what it would cater to right there.
I can't say I was anticipating a question like that tonight. USC and Michigan, 3:30, correct? CBS 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 on the West Coast, coming up on a Saturday. And when would be the last time that either one of these teams were on CBS? Of course, for Michigan, they appeared at some point last season, of course, because CBS picked up the Big Ten contract for the first time since 1986. All right, Brian, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate your contribution. Orji, the chosen one, with a floor of 2016 Jalen Hurts and the ceiling of Auburn's Cam Newton.
I guess Michigan can hope for that.
Sounds about right.
Well,
I said Tim Tebow.
Jalen Hurts in 2016 did not look like a future NFL quarterback. That's for sure. He has really blossomed, but he was good enough to leave the field in the national championship game with the lead. Never got a chance to counter the final touchdown from Deshaun Watson to Hunter Renfrow. But hey, even if Alex Orji turns into Jalen Hurts circa 2016, I think Michigan fans would be pretty happy with that.
Through the roof. Yeah, we'd be through the roof. We hope that we're just looking like, honestly, we just need a quarterback who is above average. If you can be an above average quarterback with the talent on our team defensively, and then we do have enough skill weapons with Colson Loveland and obviously Khalil Mullins, and we do have a competency of wide receivers. If we can do that and our offensive line can protect, we will be fine. But just a lot of questions right now in the early goings of the season.
Folks, keep in mind that we are so loaded up on Michigan and USC content this week. So check out all the channels, everything we've got going here at the Voice of College Football, including this afternoon, I was on Michigan podcast with Steve Dace. So I gave my perspective, which I know Michigan fans love to hear my perspective on their team each and every week. But I keep getting invited back. So I'm going to serve up this question because I'm interested, of course, because TJ's extremely close to the situation. And then after this question, we'll get back to focus on USC. But I want to hear from Tim and Matt as well. Sharon Moore, is he over his head? Are we losing confidence in Sharon Moore based on some of the decisions made?
That's the concern. That is the concern, that we have an inexperienced head coach who appears to be, early indicators, a little in over his head. That is definitely the feel we're getting right now. Now, is everybody in the fan base feeling that way? No. But what I'd say majority is, yes, the pulse of the fan base has the concern in the back of their mind. Did we hire a coach who is not ready? So far, he has shown through 3 games he is not ready. So that's what we are seeing. We are looking at a team that is not fundamentally sound. We are looking at a team not being utilized to their strengths. We're looking at coaches putting their players not in the best position to succeed, making very bonehead decisions like when we were going against Texas in the second quarter. It was third down. They throw Orji in there. They have to call a timeout. We drive the field. They call a timeout. They kill all momentum. And then they leave Orji out there and they do the most predictable thing ever, run Orji up the A gap. And we all knew it. That's the problem, right? So you know what's coming. The plays are predictable. There's no creativity. It looks to me like there's a bit of a misread. Sharon Moore has misjudged his program heading into the season. And one of the biggest mistakes Sharon has made was his overconfidence of our quarterback room and not going aggressively in the portal in April. We understand the December portal, the Jim Harbaugh, JJ saga. We didn't know what they were going to do until January. The portal closed. It's the way it goes. But in April, we all know how college football works. All these players have agents or marketing teams or coaches or trainers. You make a phone call, you start talking. Every team does it. This is a dirty little secret, but it's the honest secret. You make deals before they get in the portal, then they hop in the portal. It's how it goes. It's how we got our kicker, Zavada, from Arkansas State. It's no secret. Michigan was not aggressive. And on top of that, they did not go aggressively with a wide receiver in the portal. This is another concern. So it's the decision-making right now by Sharon Moore that Michigan fans are a bit concerned about.
One thing I talked about on the Michigan show with TJ and John was, why did Sharon Moore announce publicly that Orji's going to be his guy? He could have just kept this under wraps all week and then sprung the surprise like a jack in the box on Saturday. Why go public with it? And my thought process is, like, he's putting that out there as a challenge to his team. Right? Like, I'm making this big change. All right. We need to do things differently. We need to do things better. So I think part of this is kind of, making a move as a way of challenging everyone in that locker room. I also think it's because, everyone knows that when Orji went in as an occasional play, and Mark remembers this as a college football historian. Steve Spurrier, when he'd have his quarterback rotation at Florida, he'd send in Eric Kresser to replace Jesse Palmer. Not Jesse Palmer, Danny Werfel at Florida, like in the SEC championship game. And Kresser would throw the same route. He'd throw a fade pattern to Riddell Anthony or Jaquez Green, maybe also Ike Hilliard. Like, when Kresser was in, you knew he'd be throwing that far side fade. It's like it was a specialty play. Everyone knew it was coming. Well, with Michigan, when Orji's been in the game, you knew that a run was coming, and he didn't get Eric Kresser, Steve Spurrier level results. So part of the chess match here, I'm thinking, in terms of what Sharon Moore is doing, he's putting it out there. Orji's the starter, creating the idea that, USC needs to now focus on stopping the run. Like it's just so obvious in everyone's mind, Michigan's going to go more run heavy. So I'm thinking there's got to be something else here. There's got to be another twist, another nuance, that there's going to be a passing game package with Orji, or there's going to be some exotics using Orji in a way that USC has not seen on film. Like, Sharon Moore can't be that dumb, can he? But we'll see on Saturday, right? So in many ways, in terms of the Sharon Moore conversation at Michigan, I think it's all going to be revealed right here. Does this change amount to something? Does this change lead to something substantial? If it blows up in his face, I think we can be pretty clear in saying that he is in over his head, but not as in over his head as Deshaun Foster is at UCLA.
Yeah, well, I mean, so to your point, Matt, he had a quote this week. He did an exclusive interview with Brad Galley at Channel 7, and Brad Galley said, "So, what do you say to people who say Alex Orji can't throw?" And then Sharon Moore does this patented little grin and this smile and says, "He's going to show everybody on Saturday that he can throw." So I don't know. I mean, but I'll be honest. I got a lot of that in fall camp, and a lot of his grins and his confidence quotes have not transpired. That's a big problem. Like, what we have been hearing all camp has not been transpiring. That's why there's been a lack of trust. So we'll find out. I mean, what I find interesting, we talked about it on the Michigan show, he told the media Alex Orji was starting before the players. The players found out through questions from the media because the coaches don't meet with the players, I think, until Tuesday or something like that. Something along those lines. So the journalists were asking the players what are their thoughts on Alex Orji's start, and they didn't know. They had no idea that was already determined. So it's very interesting. I hope what it is a sign of confidence as Sharon Moore having his guys back and saying, let's go. It's your time now. It's your opportunity to lead this team. And it's his way of literally facing the storm head on. So let's hope it works. Maybe it's a motivation tactic. I am excited to see how this, but agree what you said too, Matt. We're going to learn a lot. We are going to learn a lot about Sharon Moore. This is going to be a statement game one way or another. So let's see.
The USC is going to have to prepare for Orji playing no matter what, whether it's a goal line package or third down, whatever short goal. They're going to have to prepare for them. Now they're just preparing a little bit more. But like I said on your show, TJ, it doesn't mean Orji's finishing this game. Sure, he might start it, but if it's ineffective, you're going to see other guys. So USC, in effect, did have to prepare for both scenarios.
If Orji does not finish this game, our fan base is going to riot. Because I'll tell you, the frustration on our fan base right now of what's occurring is it's hitting the fever pitch. Tempers are boiling. People are hoping that it comes together, but we've already seen the mishandling of the quarterback situation so early in the year. We've already seen a lot of predictions or promising storylines coming out of camp not coming to fruition. I mean, we were sold. For example, one thing that has not transpired at all is one of our major transfer portal additions in December was Jay Sean Barham, Pro Football Focus's #1 linebacker out of Maryland. Word out of camp was he was looking like the best linebacker since Devin Bush. No, he looks like he takes poor pursuit angles. He looks out of place. He doesn't look confident. He looks like he's thinking, not reacting. Ernest Hausman, one of our top linebackers we got the year prior in the portal from Nebraska. He was a freshman all Big Ten player, major athletic. Both these guys are athletic gods. They're just on that level, right? He's not wrapping up in tackling. He did get a sack last week. He did start to play better, but it's just what we're seeing on the field is not transferring for what we were told was happening in camp. And there's just there's a gap right now between the fan base and the program. Because after 3 years of excellent play, fundamental ball, sound development, we're seeing maybe a step back in coaching, and we're not liking it. It's not a good taste to see. Because the reason why Sharon Moore was hired, right? It was to transition the culture, to transition development, to keep the elite level play in the Big Ten alive. That's why they didn't want to go with a new coach, because they didn't want to rebuild. Well, the thing that's concerning us is it's looking like a potential rebuild, but that's why he was hired, to avoid that, right? So we're not seeing it. We'll find out. Saturday is going to be a great opportunity to answer a lot of questions.
Well, I think fan bases were going to riot if they put Warren out there and he threw 3 more interceptions as well. So, I mean,
agreed.
Realistically, it's just, it's he's going to the bullpen and hoping this is the answer. I mean, I think it's the right move. You're not going to put that kid Warren back out there. I mean, it's, if he's doing that last week against Red Wolf, I mean, it's gonna look even worse against USC. So at least this way, the fan base should say, okay, well, look, he's working with what he's got. I mean, at this point, what they said during camp, put that aside, but I don't think he had much of a choice, really, to be honest.
No, but see, that's the thing, though, is so we were led to believe that he was looking great in camp. He was QB1. Davis, we talked about this. Davis Warren won it the last week of camp. And then Davis Warren goes out there, and yes, sure, he shows signs of very good quarterback play, actually. He looks actually very adequate, but he makes those errors, those mistakes, those poor throws that causes the turnovers, which, obviously are killers. But then when Alex Orji does get his opportunity, the way they play him, it almost looks like they're afraid to let him throw. But everything out of camp, even in not even just behind the scenes things that leak, the interviews he was doing with the press weekly, that's not what he was telling the media. It's almost like you can't believe what he says. You know, like, for example, Sharon Moore today says there was always a plan for Alex Orji. No, there wasn't. No, there wasn't. It almost appears to me like they went. I feel like they were overconfident in what this team was, and that's a problem. You lost. You were not able to identify the reality of the program. You didn't have your pulse on it, and because of that, we're potentially going into the season not where they thought we were. And as a leader or a CEO of a program, you need to know where you are as a program, and it's potentially possible they misread it. We'll see, though. It's early. It's week 4.
So if Orji's 5 for 15 with 2 picks, they don't go back to Davis Warren. They go to Jack Tuttle?
No, so Jack Tuttle's actually going through injury right now. I think they might go with a Jaden Denigal. So we do have a young prospect, a young freshman who is highly ranked, Jaden Davis, a very good player, but his parents want him to redshirt and develop. Also, I think the coaching staff wants to allow him to develop, get a little more size. He's obviously, I mean, he's not short or anything. He's about 6'1". But he needs to gain some muscle, and also with the way our offensive line's playing, you don't want to put him in the line of fire and destroy his confidence so early in his career. So it might be Jaden Denigal. I mean, if they did, I'll tell you this: if they go back to Davis Warren in that game, we got a problem. Like, we have a serious problem, and it's going to be a long one because the big, as you guys know, this is the new Big Ten, baby. We got Oregon, we got Washington. We got Ohio State at the end of the year. Indiana's looking like they want to fight. We got the Big Ten is becoming a much tougher conference because of, the competitive nature of the conference, right? So Michigan needs to get it together quick.
I'll give Michigan.
I've been talking, Mark, before you come in. I've been talking with Isaiah Hull, the excellent editor of Wolverines Wire. We're trading questions, Q&As, getting input from each other during the week. And of course, we're publishing our responses to each other as well. You want to read that at Trojans Wire and Wolverines Wire. One of the things I learned from the Q&A with Isaiah is that, like, they started Davis Warren against Arkansas State as kind of that, let's give him one more chance. Let's see if he can, learn from the Texas experience. Like, we're going to give you one more chance. This is your proving ground. We're not going to give up on you just yet. So, like, that ship has sailed. That thing has run its course. So I would be shocked. Right. If they go back to Davis Warren. Like, you've run that race, and you now need to let Alex Orji, have his own baptism under fire. And it could be ugly, but, like, you need to stick with Orji in this game. We're not talking about the rest of the season. We're talking about this game. The Alex Orji, this is your proving ground. Last week, we were entrusting it to Davis Warren. So this week, Alex, it's going to be a bumpy ride, but we're going to coach you up. And if you go through some tough times, well, you're going to be sent back onto the field. And, like, this is your proving ground. And, obviously, if Michigan loses this game, it's damaging to the Wolverines season, but, like, you have to have some kind of plan at quarterback for the whole season. And so if Texas was kind of Davis Warren's, rude awakening, and then you give him the Arkansas State game on the back end of that to see, okay, let's see if you can learn from mistakes. Well, then that same logic has to apply to Alex Orji, that this is going to be the USC game. It might not work out great, but, like, you're getting this game and you're getting next week too. I think that's the other thing that has to be said, that we have to give players a chance to learn from mistakes and to develop within our system of coaching. So not only do I think that Orji has the whole game against USC, I think he has the whole following week as well. Because if you're just yanking guys at the first sign of adversity, they do not learn. There's no way for them to get any kind of continuity or rhythm. There's no way for them to trust their coaches. So all of that reinforces and underscores Orji should be getting the full game. I think there's no question about it.
Question for you, Matt. So what if it's halftime and you're Sharon Moore? It's 10-3, and Orji has done absolutely nothing to be able to throw the ball. SC's just low in the box, stopping the run. You're saying you just ride it out because you're worried about the rest of the season?
I say you are trying to give this guy a chance because you gave the previous guy a chance against Arkansas State and he fumbled the bag, as it were. So you got to give Orji a chance to play through adversity, to learn from mistakes. And hey, like you want to, under that scenario, Tim, if it's 10-3 USC at halftime, like, okay, Alex, we're coaching you up here at halftime. Here's our roadmap for the second half. Here are the adjustments we have laid out for you. Like, this is your shot to show that you can learn from coaching, that you're coachable, that you can grow within the course of a game. Yeah, zero doubt in my mind. If that's the scenario, of course they'll go with him in the second half.
I don't know. It's a conference game. It's a conference game. And if Orji's show, in my scenario, he's not doing anything. What I'm saying is he cannot hit the broadside of a barn, right? But they're in the game. The defense is keeping them in the game. You're saying, and I hear your point, you don't want to mess up a young, well, not a young quarterback, but a quarterback, and you might be relying on the rest of your. I get that point completely. But this is a conference game. Your defense is keeping the game. You roll out the third quarter, and he goes 3 and out again. You're like, it doesn't matter. We're riding this horse no matter what. Okay.
Totally. I would say that here could be the twist though. The staff put Orji in for a few select plays, not a whole quarter or a whole half, but for a few select plays, maybe Davis Warren gets, the Eric Kresser treatment. He comes in to throw one pass and then Orji comes back in. So maybe you give Warren 1 or 2 plays where you coach him up to run just this play here and that play there. But other than that, like I definitely think that Davis Warren is not going to get a whole drive in this game. They might give him a handful of one-off plays, but he's not going to get a whole drive in this game. I would feel very confident about that.
What if it's they're down by, here you go, here's your scenario. What if they're down by 2, Matt, and there's about 1:32 on the clock? Who are they bringing in? I
think, unless Orji's like, 1 for 18.
Yes, it's
that's my scenario.
That's
my scenario. He's not hitting the broadside of a barn, which I'm not saying is going to happen.
I mean, he'd have to be like 1 of 18, 3 of 23, for him to be replaced. If he's 6 for 18, 5 of 16, yeah, he'll be back out for that final drive.
TJ, who do you want the final drive? You got about 1:40 on the clock. You're down by 2. Do you want Alex Orji out there, or do you want Warren?
I got to see Orji play, but
let me just jump in before TJ completes his answer. Let's just say a 2-point game, 27-25, and a 2-point game, 5-3, very different, right?
Well, again, under my scenario, he's been ineffective. Obviously, if it's a tight game and he's moving the ball, then it's probably it's not a point.
So it's 5-3. It's 5-3.
I'm saying he happens to be struggling. You need to get in field goal range. You got a minute and change left. You're probably going to go with a more accurate. I mean, I would think you'd go with a more accurate arm.
I can't imagine he's passing anything below 50%. I can't imagine that. Now, if he is, that's a problem. But I also think the 2 quarterback experiments done. They kind of didn't do it in Arkansas State. They essentially went Davis Warren most of that game. I think the Davis Warren experiment's done. I think they are going to, like Matt said here, it kind of reminds me of Utah. I don't know. I think it was Travis Huntley who was their quarterback, not the most accurate passer. I think they're just going to ride with it. I think they're going to, and I think even at halftime, like your scenario there, Tim, if they're only down a touchdown or 3 points or whatever, they're going to go out there and they're going to try and beat you with the run. Because the reality is what they're going to try and do is wear you down, wear your defense down, and then hopefully get you guys to submit by the 4th quarter. That's been the way Michigan's succeeded the last few years, is the boa constrictor offense, right? So that would be the attack. I mean, I also think if it is the final drive with 1:23 left and they're only down by 2, well, you're in 4-down territory there, and I'm pretty positive Alex Orji can get first downs, at least 3 yards every play. So we'll find out. I'll just say this though. I do not expect to see Davis Warren at all. Not even for, I mean, unless it's like 9 seconds left and we're at the 45 and they need to launch a ball. You know, although actually that's not true because Alex Orji actually has a very strong arm.
Got a strong arm, yeah.
He is a very strong arm. So yeah, I don't see Davis Warren seeing the field Saturday.
Well, here's a glimpse of hope and optimism for Michigan fans. There was a time when Justin Fields, it was doubted whether he could throw the ball because Kirby Smart would not let him throw the ball. He'd come in for Jake Fromm and he was just allowed to run. He never threw the ball. His only throws were like little bubble screens. That's all they would let him throw. And there was this thought that, what's wrong with this guy? He's not allowed to throw. What's the deal? Well, he threw 41 touchdown passes at Ohio State. So his first year. So there you go. Alex Orji, 41 TD passes this year. All right.
Adam's got a question for you guys.
Well, this is the most important question of the night right here. Listen up. We've all got to give it our best here. Adam says here, my girlfriend wants to get married. Uh-oh. We have a great relationship, but I am worried that marriage and kids will change things. What should I do? Any advice is appreciated. Sorry that this has nothing to do with football. Okay, who wants to go first?
Adam, you got my number. You got my number. I'll talk your ear off. You want to talk about that? I'm not the guy to ask for marriage information on. You know, I'm on my second marriage. I'm on my second marriage, very happily now. But you know, you're talking about a guy that's been divorced, so don't ask a divorced guy marriage advice. But if you really want it, give me a call. You got my number. We'll talk.
Well, Tim would be more prepared as the guy that was divorced but now happily married, as opposed to the divorced guy not married. Let's see, I was engaged another time. That didn't work out, so don't ask me. Yeah. But I do have 2 beautiful kids that I would not trade the world for. They are phenomenal. So there you go. I can tell you how to raise some kids, I guess.
Go with your heart, Adam, and just protect your pocketbook. There you go. There you go. There's your advice.
Get a prenup. Get a prenup if you go the marriage route.
You're a lawyer. Adam, you're a lawyer. You know how this works.
Adam, I would just say this, you know, be as direct, open, and honest as possible, right? Like if you're considering spending your life with another person, cards on the table, right? Like this is a cards on the table game for Sharon Moore and Michigan. This is a cards on the table decision for you, Adam Lamparello. Yeah. You know, you can't beat around the bush. You can't be indirect with your players with, you know, in terms of the message that you want to send. You need to have clarity and you need to show that you're responsible and you need to show that you're up for this. And, you know, you can't hedge, right? You need to make a firm decision, kind of like Sharon Moore with his quarterback situation at Michigan. So, hey, do you want to spend the rest of your life with this very special person? Do you want to have kids? Start a family? And look, if she says no, you will have made your offer, you will have made your presentation, you will have put yourself out there, and you will have done the most that you could, the best that you could, right? And like when we talk about these kinds of things, there's a parallel with sports, right? Sometimes you can play the most magnificent game. Like you can be Roger Federer in the 2008 Wimbledon final, but Rafa is improbably somehow better. But like you were great, you were awesome. Someone else did even better, right? You don't lose sleep when you lose like that because you did your very best. You left it all on the court. You left it all between the lines. Those are not the moments that we regret in life. We regret when we don't do our best, when we leave something on the table, when we commit that sloppy late game turnover. You know, we're like Brian Sipe, mistake by the lake, 1981 divisional playoff. The Browns were about to beat the Raiders, go to the AFC Championship game and make their first Super Bowl. Those are the kinds of instances where you lose sleep. You never forget it. You're haunted for decades. But when you do your best, when you put your best foot forward and you still don't get the right life outcome, you don't lose sleep because you were at your best. So Adam, put your best foot forward, be as open as possible. The worst thing that can happen is she says no, but you still have this, you know, friendship with her and you can still, feel the best about her, but you just worry about being your best self, Adam Lamparello.
Beautifully stated, Matt. She wants to get married, is what Adam's telling us. So I'll just end it, unless somebody else has something else to say, with the sports analogies, and I'll say, Adam, go to Muhammad Ali against George Foreman, and you can play the rope-a-dope and do that. Okay.
Hold on. I think what we learned here is we need to do a Matt Zemek life advice segment.
Yes.
I think that is
life
a need.
Coach.
I think we just found this, and we definitely need to
clip this off. Chris, clip this off, and we're going to start a new channel. TJ will get all over that. He's the master at creating channels. He'll get us started. Hey, if we can have a Boise State channel here at the Voice of College Football, we can certainly tack on a life coaching channel as well. Good stuff. I am still waiting to ask my question to Tim about USC. All right, Tim, you were more optimistic about SEC season than either Matt or I, although I don't think either one of us are surprised. They beat LSU. I picked them to win that game. They won it impressively. They also didn't just slop through Utah State. They did what an elite team does. They stomped them, and they shut them out on defense to further confirm the defensive improvement. And now they haven't played Michigan yet, but they look in position to be the better team and be a decided favorite. Could you have envisioned this is just about as good as it could be entering week 3, not just for USC, but the circumstances of this game, that Michigan is apparently off of its game?
It is a combination of both those things, really. I'm a bit surprised. I'd be lying if I said that I thought that this defense would look this good. I'm beyond impressed with just because of the turnaround. But as far as USC being in a position it's in, the reason why I was bullish on USC, and I said it, I don't know how many times, going back even to when we had a defensive coordinator that I didn't really feel confidence for. I kept saying that, and I said a lot in the summer because nobody was really believing it. They talked about it for years. They said, what if Lincoln Riley had a decent defensive coordinator? And one thing I did know is that we'd have a decent defense. So why was I so high on USC? It was because I knew we had a decent defense coming in. And I know Lincoln Riley is the best play caller in football, in college football, definitely. And you put him with a competent defensive coordinator. We saw what he did, so then say, well, can you do it in 1 year? Well, we saw what he did at UCLA, turning a program that was horrific on defense and turning them into one of the better run defenses in the country and one of the better overall defenses in the country. We saw it firsthand as Trojan fans, the way he basically shut out Lincoln Riley. And Lincoln Riley looked at that and says, if you could do that to my offense, I want you as my defensive coordinator. And they went across town and they grabbed him. And I didn't think Michigan would be struggling the way it is. Again, I'm so surprised. Maybe I'm just spoiled being a USC fan, because no matter how bad we are, we always have a great quarterback. It doesn't matter how bad we are on other parts of the field. For some reason, USC always has an elite level quarterback, no matter how bad we try to shoot ourselves in the foot in other parts of the program. And so you add that to Lincoln Riley, bring in a competent defense. These guys are playing out of their minds. I think they're all very talented, but they're playing. It's just a message. They seem very keyed in. Every interview I've been a part of and around, these guys are just singular focused. We don't care about the outside noise. Some of it's coach speak, some of it's being coached up by the sports information, on how to talk and how to talk to this press. But these kids believe it. And I think that they screwed up, they being the rest of the country, taking shots at Lincoln Riley, embarrassing Lincoln Riley and embarrassing these players. And now they're mad and they're coming back for it. So I'm glad to see it. I think the combination of USC's defense being as good as it is and the opponents that we thought was going to be a huge gauntlet to run through, looking mortal, if not staggered, it has me really excited about what USC can do this year.
There's another point to add here in all of this, and that is that USC against Utah State was supposed to be facing Spencer Petras, instead faced Bryson Barnes. Okay, Was supposed to face Davis Warren. Now instead is going to be facing Alex Orji. Next week, supposed to face Tyler Van Dyke. Instead, will face Braden Locke. So USC is going to have a run of 3 straight games in which a team is going to change its starting quarterback. Now, in 2 of the 3 cases, it's injury. In 1 of the 3 cases, it's a choice by the coaching staff. But nevertheless, USC is running into quite the series of plot twists with opposing quarterbacks. It's pretty fascinating to contemplate that. And that's just 1 month, not even half a season, let alone a full season.
And the defense is still, they talked about in the offseason, the way that he's been successful at UCLA, he being D'Anton Lynn, has been successful at UCLA, and now appears to have it turned around here at USC and with great momentum, is the fact that he installed it and they just would nail parts of the offense. He didn't throw the whole gigantic playbook at them. They're getting the stuff down, the fundamentals, and he's adding stuff every week. So this defense, just like in any install, is going to get better every week the more they get familiar with the scheme. And Miller Moss, I'm saying it again, Miller Moss is special. He's got to keep getting better every single week, every rep at practice, every time he throws the ball or takes a snap in the game. The young man's got to get better and better. And he's so far, he's shown he's got ice water. He's taking some hits. We need to protect him. That's the key to the season, is he's got to stop taking those hits because, it's football.
Do you think Miller Moss stays after the year?
That's a question for him, his agent, and his family.
Okay. I didn't know if you guys had a pulse on it. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's early, but I mean, he keeps playing like this. I doubt it.
Okay.
You know what, TJ? I would say this. Let's check in after the Michigan game.
Oh, there we go. There we
No,
go.
I think his stock will go up throughout the year. That's what I will say. Now, I'll make that prediction. I don't think that it's not. I think it's going to be a situation of, I can't imagine it getting much better than if he continues to play the way he's playing right now. I can't imagine his stock going up, staying for a senior year. I think it would be really he's shown what he can do, and then now he just has to go to the next level. Would be my guess, but I mean, obviously that's the decision they're going to make.
It's potentially possible you guys make a good run here in the playoffs, and maybe he wants, he got to taste the playoffs, and maybe with a nice NIL package, he could return for a redemption tour. Kind of like Quinn Ewers is going through. JJ went through it. We'll see. I mean, obviously to be determined, but it's
a long way away. Yeah.
I mean, you guys are looking like a playoff team, though. I mean, you got to be feeling. I mean, maybe you guys are being cautiously optimistic, but from an outsider's perspective, you guys look like a playoff team.
I think they look like a complete team, and I think they've got playmakers and they've got elite coaching. That's a good combination for a playoff team. I agree with you, TJ.
Matthew Miller checking in. Matthew, thank you so much. Let's say Orji has a good game. Would that not worry Michigan fans even more, because that shows bad evaluation by your head coach? That opens up more worms. Well, I think because of the advent of the transfer portal and that opportunity, regardless of what the outcome is now, it has shown whether the poor play is one way or the other, or Orji should have been on the field the whole time, that Sharon Moore made a bad decision. Now,
on the Michigan show, I made the point that we at USC are used to having a coach not make the right quarterback evaluation in the first 3 weeks of the season and then inserting a new quarterback in week 4. The man's name was Sam Darnold. I think USC fans were happy that the change was made.
Don't do it twice, Matt. Right.
That's as far as I'm going to go. But just to address Matthew Miller's point.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if Alex Orji becomes the answer, I think fans are just going to be happy. Listen, it's lessons learned. We move forward. That's kind of would be the approach by the Michigan fans, I would think.
It would also show that Moore is capable of developing Orji. That his player development chops are actually pretty reasonable. So yeah, I don't think that would be a bad outcome for Michigan.
And I think there was one more super chat. Barry Fisher, thank you for the super chat and your long-term membership. Matt, this was one for you. Another fantasy, instead of tennis, why not soccer? 2 halves without commercials during the play, only before, after, and at halftime. Well, talk to the TVs, because they're not going to agree to that.
Football is just not made for constant nonstop action. You need to take a breath. So.
Yeah, I mean, the mistakes made defensively would be insane if there was no, stoppage of play.
They were trying not to stop the clock in Knoxville last week with Kent State on the field trailing 65-0. The offer was out there to have a running clock in the second half. Can you imagine in a major college football game that we were going to go to the amateur level of running clock in the second half, just to not further embarrass my beloved Golden Flashes?
The time for predictions?
Sure. Yeah, this should be fun. Do we go with our guest first? Of course, TJ.
All right. So I am, as mentioned on our show, I'm currently 3-0 on predictions for Michigan. Right now, I see it heading into Saturday, a 28-17 USC victory.
Matt?
So I think this is going to be, a 1970s Big Ten game. Like it could be, one of those just old 3 yards in a cloud of dust fist fights. I don't see a lot of touchdowns. I think I see, this is going to be a Steph Curry game. Going to be a lot of threes in this game. It's going to be a bumpy ride for USC, but I do trust this defense to bring it home. USC 15, Michigan 12.
So USC is averaging 37 points a game. And this is not, they're not playing the same level of competition. They're not going to put 48 up on the Wolverines. However, USC just has too many playmakers. I don't see his game being an old fashioned slobber knocker, just going back and forth, run the ball and kicking field goals. When it comes to in the end zone, if our guys, again, are securing the ball and catching the ball, if we are not making stupid penalties that are extending drives for the defense or any drives for the offense, which, again, we haven't done all year. If they continue that clean play, and if USC takes care of the ball, USC is going to win this game 27-16.
This sounds like the perfect time to remind everyone that they can get my predictions as a premium member on Patreon or at the Voice of College Football on the main channel and get my selection that I typically make near the end of the week. There you go. Along with Matt. I give Matt a 12-pack along with Steve Dace. They fill it out. They tell you who's going to win straight up and against the spread on a 12-pack of games, of the very best games on each Saturday. Plus, of course, Steve Merrill with the Under the Radar selection. So, folks, check that out. That's a selection as a premium member on YouTube, on the main channel, and on Patreon as well. This reminds me that if you are a member right here at the Voice of College Football USC, there's a segment posted by Matt and myself dealing with the Michigan US series and the great history between these two schools. And so check that out. Again, it's the choice cuts, right, Matt?
Absolutely. Premium cut, freshly broiled, right out of the smoker. Yep, absolutely. Just seasoned just right.
All right, guys. Appreciate you doing this. TJ, thanks for stopping by. I know that you had another show tonight, and so thanks so much for stopping by to provide the Michigan take.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Always a great conversation with the boys here. Looking forward to Saturday. Let's go.
Catch TJ every Tuesday and Thursday on the Michigan channel. So, folks, this is a good opportunity for you to find out what's going on here at the Voice of College Football on the other team channels. If you love college football, get on over there. Check out the Michigan show. Again, Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time with TJ and John.
TJ, thanks for spending the night with us on your show and then coming over here to ours. We really appreciate it. And so for our show, again, normally we're on Fridays, but Tim's flying up to Ann Arbor for the game on Friday. So this week, and again, it's another special. So our call-in show is Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Tim and me, bring your calls for our Conquest call-in show here on the USC channel at the Voice of College Football. But Friday's our normal slot, but this week, Wednesday, to accommodate Tim's travel up to Ann Arbor for the big one.
And make sure you guys are checking out Trojan's Wire, because I'm going to be taking pictures, and I can't imagine a better helmet game than USC versus Michigan. I mean, the pictures are going to be gorgeous. Best helmets in football with
I've got a few other options available, but that's okay.
It's truly the two best out there. There's really no debate.
I agree.
Yeah,
Definitely not any silver helmets.
That thing's boring.
Well, that's when you have the elite players who fill them up with those beautiful Buckeye Leafs. That's the trademark. All right, folks, appreciate you being here again. Trojan's Wire every day to get prepared for this one. Check out what these guys put together over on the Michigan channel earlier tonight as well. We will see you very soon. Of course, for Tim and Matt, it's tomorrow night. And then, of course, for the post game this weekend.